Well, hello there, and welcome to day 3 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. I have just finished watching the Netflix film His House, directed and written by Remy Weeks. And yes, that is a really good film. I originally, years ago, did my undergraduate dissertation on horror, and so I've always had a great passion for the genre and interest in sort of the deconstructing the fundamentals of how horror really approaches people, and I've always taken a great interest in the sort of deeper psychological techniques that are used in horror. And I have to say, this film really captures some interesting themes that really cut deep into social commentary as well as psychological horror. Just to give a quick précis, His House follows Bol and Rial, who are played by Sophie Desiree and Wunmi Masaku. Apologies if I've got those names wrong. I've only ever seen them written down, so I've done my best. But yeah, Bol and Rial, they are refugees from South Sudan, and having just escaped a horrific experience, have been placed in a home in Britain. And essentially it goes into a ghost story, but really approaches it from a perspective that I'd never seen before. And I have to say, I was quite shocked by the fact that I'd never seen a horror film that explored the turmoils of someone, say, a refugee in this country or any other. And I think it really does touch on really interesting social themes. For some reason, the first section of the film really made me think back to like Paranormal Activity, and how that film focuses on two characters exclusively, and really breaks those characters down and really gets us to the heart of their relationship and their dynamic and the weaknesses and sort of the microaggressions that really exist within a relationship. And my mind kept drifting back to that. Though there are other characters who are mattered throughout His House, including Matt Smith, it's really a two-hander, and they really give a strong performance that you engage with. I often think now we are right now in the renaissance of horror. I really, really strongly think that. I think a few years ago, people started to ask the question of like, how can we recapture horror at its best? We went through a really rough period, probably over a decade ago, where we really didn't know how to explore horror as a genre and really not just make people jump in their seats, but leave a cinema thinking about why they were scared in that experience. So we ended up doing things like appropriating Japanese horror with films like The Grudge and The Ring. But again, our failure to understand the genre was really apparent in both British and American filmmaking. Then we hit a phase with James Wan, and though I'm not the biggest fan of, say, the Conjuring films or the Insidious films, I do think that I have to credit him for really revitalising the horror genre. And it shepherded in, creators like Asta and Jordan Peale, who do want to explore the horror genre from a really rich and complex place. With Ari Aster, he really looks at trauma and the ways that a real-world traumatic experience can cause someone to be isolated and paranoid. Whereas Jordan Peele really looks at racial divides and the underclass, and how in our desperate need to become more successful or to get the better, in their case, the American dream, that you'll stand on other people's shoulders and push them down. And I think their commentary using horror is really strong. And I think Remy Weeks really touches something with the idea of trauma as a ghost story, and how that expands into horror, and the idea of the apeth, which is a witch that is haunting the house of this couple. Again, you see the couple's microaggressions towards each other expanding until it just becomes external aggression, where Bol is trying to ingratiate himself in society. Rial, she really is isolated, and there are scenes of real social realist drama where it gets away from horror, and how people treat her in the street, and causing her to be more isolating and wanting to go back where he wants to go forward, she wants to go back, and you see that pull. Plus you see, really strong British commentary on things like the officials who placed them in the house are constantly saying things like, oh, this house is bigger than mine, and you have the people in the community around them who are giving them dirty looks or throwing comments, and you really feel that sense of isolation. What I'm coming to, really, is that horror isn't about, the monster from the outside. I've never believed, and I think when I originally did my dissertation, what I really wanted to say, although I was quite young and like all undergraduate dissertations, it was not good. But what I wanted to explore is the idea that horror isn't monsters that come from without, but what comes from within, being expressed without. And so the monster that we see in his house is really within themselves, and the film really goes to great pains to explore that. And honestly, I would be delighted to see more films like this. And again, I think Netflix is a great platform for exploring that. So, very pleased, very happy. Haven't seen a good horror like this for a good couple of months, So, again, I will see you tomorrow for hopefully another new film. Take care now.